Welcome to the Two Steward Show. Falling birth rates have two major consequences. First of all, they add immense pressure to healthcare, pensions, and all the other social services paid for by overburdened and distressed taxpayers. This pressure can build up over time, eventually giving all our social services a giant headache. Or if the pressure is great enough, it can even turn them into a giant headache. The second major consequence is that falling birth rates produce fewer kids. But that is not such a big deal because it can actually help people who are really in a pinch save on diapers, formula, daycare, groceries, and sleep. And science has shown that those who sleep well make better decisions. They also listen to better podcasts. This time, we talk aging demographics, mass immigration, racketeering, and more. To get in touch with the show, visit twostewards.ca. Remember, this show is not financial advice, but is valuable for listening, amusement purposes. And now, will mass immigration fix our country?
As we record, we're on the last day of 2025. What a year it was. And some things we want to talk about. Mass immigration and how our culture is being shaped. But
did you take time off on the holidays?
Before we do that, yes, I did. A little bit of time, which is, it's interesting, right? Now having a job, working for someone else, I can just take time off.
And not have to think about anything.
Yeah, and I mean, no, I'm still.
So you've been thinking about the podcast and thinking about solutions for the global crises.
I mean, a little bit. Also, just renovating.
Well, you have that place down by Ellicaville. Did you guys go skiing?
No, we don't. We don't ski. I'm not a skier, anyways. I think my wife and my daughter is showing real interest in skiing, so we're gonna go down there soon, I think. Because it's been booked, right? Ski season, ski time. So whatever. That's the primary purpose is not for us to go skiing, but for us to have an investment. So
yeah. Well, the primary reason I brought up that question is because I think our country is way over our skis.
Yeah.
We are over our skis, Mark.
You mentioned that, and I'm like, I don't know. Is that
what does
good?
that even mean? Yeah.
That's what you want, right? You want to be over your skis.
You want to be on the top side of the skis. Over your skis is where you're leading too far forward, and
what happens?
The forward momentum. It's not pretty.
But you're going forward, right? You're going down, forward. That's fine, isn't it?
You want to be in a posture of stability,
Oh, okay.
And sustainability, so you can maintain your pose for whatever obstacles come your way.
Who knew that skiing was so applicable to daily life?
Yes. As you're going down the hill, I don't ski. I snowboard. It's a little bit different.
Okay.
Because you're always going sideways, so you're looking at things from a different angle. But skiing, you always, if you're not balanced, one foot goes this way, and the other foot goes that way, and the obstacle hits you square in the face.
I think I've done that.
I think that's like Canada.
A few times I have been skiing. I think Canada is more like snowboarding. It's just like
skiing. It's like at the right and the left, right? Well, maybe it's the U.S. They get the right and the left. The right's going this way, the left's going that way.
And in between.
Most of the population might be in the middle. Just cruising this is going to end badly.
But it's also like snowboarding because you're going sideways, but you're also going downhill.
Yeah, 2025 was a year of going sideways and feeling like you're going downhill. Yeah, probably going downhill. So what will 2026 bring?
Oh man, more of the same? I don't know. I mean, we want to talk about some aspects of mass immigration, but I feel like there's been some pushback. There's been some change. We've seen population numbers actually decrease for the first time, like a net decrease in Q4 or Q3, I guess. Q4
in Canada.
In Canada,
that was not necessarily the most joyful thing for real estate investors who rely on the rental market, a robust rental market and rental pool, because immigrants coming to a country generally are renters for the first little bit, right? So they're looking to settle. That drives up rental demand. So shutting that off, not so great for the rental market.
No, we're seeing prices continue to decline, right? In our areas, anyways, the GTHA. So it's interesting, right? It's a cycle, and I think it's been a very long real estate cycle in Ontario. 10 years, anyways, of just going up and
cruising
up and up on the upside of the cycle, and now we're
So if you take the metaphor of skiing, like we were on the chairlift for 10 years.
right.
Now we got off. All right. So now it's going to happen.
Now we're going downhill.
Yeah.
And hopefully we know how to stop at the bottom, right?
I don't know if this is super applicable, but
No.
Like if you zoom out,
let's milk this analogy.
Milk this metaphor. All right. So, but if you zoom out, like the overarching narrative is you have population decline.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe globally or even just country by country. Like we have population issues and demographic issues.
You want to do every country?
Every country.
Wow.
At least the big important ones.
Okay.
Like Canada. How important is Canada again? On the
On
global stage?
To us, very. On the global scale, not at all.
You look at the budgets and then you take off like a bunch of decimal points and there's Canada's.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not really that big. But you have people that like the aging demographics getting older and we're losing working class or working age people.
Yep.
Working class. No, we're not losing working class. Fewer kids, falling birth rates, right? It's all kind of underlying the current realities. And that's why I said we're over our skis. Like what gets us back in balance? And I think that's why you brought up mass immigration. Like, will mass immigration fix our country, or can it fix a country? And is mass immigration a solution here when you have, a ton of people aging out and not very many people having kids, and you have a lot of debt, you have a lot of entitlements to pay for, and a lot of these people who are coming into retirement, receiving their old age benefits, are not financially prepared for it.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's so interesting. You talking about the mass immigration. I didn't have this in the notes, but Mark Wiseman, who is not one, who was the chair of the what was
Your
it?
first comment of 2026 is a tangent. It's not even in the notes.
Is that a surprise?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, of course. No, he was the chair of the not Century 21. That's a real estate group, but the Century Initiative for Canada, right? To get to 100 million people by 2100. He was just named the ambassador to the United States for Canada by Mr. Carney. So you can kind of see where his interests are, and that we're not moving away from that rhetoric, or we wouldn't have this kind of fella representing us in the government. But in any case, the whole mass immigration idea. I mean, this has been the argument, right? Is that we need mass immigration in Canada specifically, and in the West generally, to make up for falling GDP and for an aging population, right? If you look at
to sustain all of their benefits.
Yeah, you look even like Canada Pension Plan, right? Optimistic projections.
Are you hopeful that's going to be around when you retire?
No, I'm not counting on that at all.
Okay.
I mean, that's only in a few years.
Yeah,
Mike, so.
I was going to say, for you, if you're not counting on it, then I'm like, there's no hope.
No, I mean, I think if you're realistic, you don't count on that.
Yeah.
Because even if you do get it, like, how much is it? It's not a lot.
I don't know. After inflation, the purchasing power of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like, OAS is like, I don't know, $800 a month or something if you're in the top tier, I think. And CPP, I don't think is going to be. So, there's the first takeaway, right? Is make your alternate plans, because it don't depend on CPP. Anyways, but the point is, right, it's a big liability. Optimistic projections show that eventually CPP will be able to fund itself. But I mean, that's relying on a whole bunch of
the old age
assumptions.
Pensions will fund themselves.
No,
is that what you said?
No, CPP.
CPP.
Not OAS.
Okay.
OAS is just, there's no OAS fund, right? But there is a Canada Pension Plan, which isn't performing that well. But, again, projections say that eventually it'll fund itself, but that's not for a while. So in the meantime, we need to fund it with more contributions from workers, right? So I guess the theory is get more workers in.
Yeah, where do we get these workers contributions?
But that's ignoring something. Like, if these people don't have jobs, or if they're not creating jobs, you can't just bring millions of people into a country if there's no job demand for them, right? in a failing economy, economy that's in a tailspin, that like it doesn't help anything. And we've kind of seen that, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. On one hand, you say we need mass immigration to create GDP and increase the tax base, and on the other hand, just in pure economic terms, it's like, well, no, it's not going to do anything if there's no preconditions for success, if there's no economic activity. And when we've choked all of our major the industries, the ones that we can actually create jobs fairly quickly, like resource extraction, we've kind of tried to put that to a minimum. You're like, where else are you gonna? What kind of jobs are you creating? Like YouTube creators, OnlyFans? Like, it's not. Well, I mean, that has been the story, right? Increasing service-based jobs, both in Canada and the United States, and so the United States are pushing away from that now, and they're saying we need manufacturing, we need creation, we need resource extraction, all this kind of stuff, right? And in Canada, we're still like, no, it's fine, like Tim Hortons will provide our the base of our GDP.
Hey, there's always someone in the drive-through, so like boost GDP, $2 coffee is it $2 for coffee now? It's got to be more than that. I don't drink coffee, and I very, very seldom go to Tim Hortons.
Yeah, well.
Sorry, my mind is. I'm just watching this truthinaccounting.org page about the true debt clock, because we talked about the debt clock in the States, just to kind of drive this home, like how big is kind of the reality of the situation here. They say the U.S. published national debt is 38 trillion.
Yep.
The truth is it's 163 trillion.
Yeah, which is just nuts, right?
Yeah. Each taxpayer's share is 922,000 US dollars, or 10.54 bitcoins. Sorry, I got the app that tells you all the prices.
Yeah, that's okay.
So, sometimes it can get confusing, but anyways, so where does all that extra, like what they're saying is the truth of the actual debt or deficit, like where does that actually come from? It comes from unfunded Medicare promises, unfunded Social Security promises. That's holding the bulk of it, like 67 trillion, 51 trillion. It's a lot of debt. This is a big problem.
Well, yeah, when you consider,
it's hard for people to wrap their head around $160 trillion.
Yeah,
of debt, well, what that actually
you
means.
Look at the debt clock, right? You said, what is it, 38 point something trillion? That's like a astronomical number. But then when you look at the actual, like what they actually need to pay, that's even. How many times bigger is that? Like
much.
5 times larger.
I don't know. It'll pay for itself. Let's go on to the next.
Well, so this is something people don't think about a lot.
Well, I'm trying to get the whole extent of this fleshed out here, right?
Okay, flesh it out, Brent.
Well, like we're over our skis, and so this is how much we've taken on, right?
Yeah.
That's the analogy of like, you're leaning too far forward. You're going to go too fast. You're not prepared for this. And look at all this debt you've taken on, right? Like, how are you going to pay for this?
And
mass immigration, immigration is the solution.
I think it's part of the problem.
Oh.
So let me give you some examples. Okay?
Well, yeah, give us some current
events. Okay, because part of the, you remember Doge, right? Department of Government Efficiency.
That one I do remember.
Okay. Yeah. And, they saved some money and stuff, but ultimately we're not able to really push through a lot of meaningful things. I think you're seeing sort of maybe a resurgence or a different emergence of sort of grassroots-led Doge-like initiatives. So one thing that's been in the news recently, I mean, this has been in the news for like 10 years, but is the...
That's how long I haven't been listening to the news.
Well, but not in a meaningful way.
Okay.
Right? But, okay, let's just hit this. Minnesota, and specifically the Somali community is sort of under fire, right? You've got this fella, Nick Shirley, who's out there with a cell phone running around documenting all these daycares in Minnesota specifically, right? Because that's the sort of Minneapolis epicenter of the Somali community. And like, I'm kind of picking on the Somali community, but like as an example, Okay, because there is much, much more of this happening in the States, I'm sure. And it's not specifically them, but this ties into the mass immigration thing. When you bring in large numbers of people from a culture with no integration.
Break down like what actually happened here. So this young guy's going around to daycares in Minnesota,
Yeah,
in the Somali community.
correct. And so he didn't discover this, but he's like, I don't know, made it popular again. Documented it, because there have been some investigations into fraud. And where this ties into your debt thing is this is under Social Security and Medicare, right? So there's autism centers. I think we talked about this before, and specifically, and then also daycare. Now, when you consider that around 80% of Somalis that in Minneapolis anyways are on welfare.
How many?
Around 80%, 70 to 80%, depending on who you believe, right? They're on welfare. So that's a whole other discussion, right? The value of immigrants. And there have been some very interesting studies come out of starting in the Netherlands and then other European countries as well, right? Showing like the relative value of different communities.
Right.
We can get into
like
that
how they
another
contribute
time.
to
Just the net
society.
economic benefit, and like it ain't good, I'll tell you that. But in this case, there's a massive fraud going on that has been investigated, is under investigation, and to listen to Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, there's like 80 or so individuals that are really responsible for all of this, for what could be $18 billion worth of fraud. So we're not talking like millions anymore. We're talking billions, right? Billions. So the upshot is he went around one day and he's like, I figure we uncovered about $100 million worth of fraud in one day, just going to these daycare centers that are all empty.
So how does the fraud actually work?
So you open up a daycare center.
Yeah.
So this is the 20% of Somalis that are not on benefits, I guess. They're opening daycare and autism centers. Anyways, you open a daycare center and you get government funding for daycare, right? Which they've increased in the last number of years in Minnesota as well. Now, nobody's sending their kids, but it's a whole hierarchy of corruption, right? You get a bunch of parents in the community be like, okay, you've all got 5 kids, because they all have a lot of kids, and we should take note on that. Just like sign up your kids, so we got names, and then they don't ever have to actually come to the daycare center.
Right. They just have to sign up, register.
Yeah, so that you have the names on the books. And then, so sure enough, this guy goes around looking, and like all these daycare centers are empty, and they're not interested in because he's also trying to enroll his kid, like fictitiously, right? Like, oh, how can I enroll my kid? And they're just like, no, we're not interested, right? Because clearly, there's no kids there. There's no daycare staff being provided, right? We talked about the school lunch thing, which was another big scam, right? These Somali businesses providing school, getting millions of funding per business, and there's no lunches going out, right? Just outright fraud. So some of this has been under investigation, but pretty low level, and it's kind of blowing up now, where people are realizing this is endemic in the Somali community. This is what they're doing. And number one, fraud's no good. Fraud's bad. But if you look at the GDP of Somalia, something I can't remember what it is now, 30% or something, probably maybe more, is remittances, which means money from abroad. So this is people of the Somali diaspora working or getting money somehow and then sending it back to Somalia. And the issue there is a lot of that money goes to terrorist groups like Al-Shabaab, who like to bomb
or at
U.S.
or at least the leaders. It doesn't go to the population to.
No, but it documented going to actual terrorist groups.
Yeah.
In Somalia. So it's the U.S. Social Security system is actively funding terrorism, right? And so
indirectly through daycares in Minnesota.
There's two viewpoints on this, right? Number one has been no, that's not happening. And that quickly changed once this citizen journalist came out and just documented it. So you can just see it. Like, yeah, there's nobody here. There's nobody at the Quality Leering Center. Okay.
Explain that to you.
I'm looking to get a T-shirt of that one because that one is perfect. So this is a daycare center, where you send kids. And their claim now is like, well, you came early in the day.
Yeah,
the kids only come at night.
We didn't put the N on the sign.
But the sign was misspelled. It's supposed to be Quality Learning Center. And instead they missed one of the N's. So Quality Leering Center. I think that's been fixed now, but it just...
They didn't say whether it was a high quality leering center or a low quality leering center.
There wasn't enough room on the sign.
They stay within their budget, Mark. That's good.
No, that's important. Anyways, all kinds of
the
shenanigans.
culture. So the culture of Somalians coming here, like what is the context they're coming from in Somalia?
Well, I think that's the thing that we don't get, right? Is that we operate in the West in a high trust society based on how our culture and civilization has developed, which is like, it's very individualistic, and like we're all trying to work and provide for ourselves and for our family, and at the same time we make society better.
Yeah.
Right. And that means we have a lot of trust, right? I trust that you're not out to scam me or out to get me. When you cut like a lot of other countries, cultures, that's simply not the case. And so when you take mass immigration from these cultures and bring them here without any kind of integration, like that's bad news bears.
Well, they can take advantage of it, right?
From the 70s.
Yeah. So one I haven't seen. They could take advantage of it, right? So they're living in a culture where...
Well, they're used to their government like screwing them over at every opportunity.
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife about this, how in most cultures, most countries in the world, if you get pulled over by a cop, like you got to have some cash because that's just how it is, right? You get pulled over, okay, you pay them, you go on and that's like nobody even bats an eye at that. You just that's understood. Whereas
you don't do that.
No, I keep donuts on hand.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, officer, I just happen to have a nice, double glazed or apple fritter. Like, maybe we can settle our differences over old fashioned plain. That's terrible anti-police rhetoric there.
Yes.
But no, like here, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. And like maybe it happens, but that's criminal, and you get prosecuted for that. But it's perfectly understandable. So when you come from Somalia, like one of the worst countries in the world to live in, everybody's on the take, right? And the government is not there to support you. The government's trying to get what it can from you. So in turn, you got to do what you can to get one over on the government, right?
Yeah.
To if you can get something out of them, perfect. So you take that mindset and you come over to the West, and all of a sudden, like
it's like a heyday.
You can do it very easily.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not excusing
it's
it.
Like, oh, the government is here to support me.
Well, okay, number one, they're here to support you. But number two, they're very, very susceptible to fraud. Right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't get away with that in Somalia. Like there's not the infrastructure, but also there's no trust.
Yeah.
They would be like, no, hold on a minute. I'm not giving you government funds for this thing because you're probably just trying to scam us. And so I'm not saying this is Somali culture in particular, but I think a lot of the third world, that's just how it is. Corruption is so endemic that you expect it from the government, from authority figures.
They have capital punishment in Somalia.
Oh yeah, I mean, you get caught doing that stuff. It's not good, right? You'll lose a hand or you'll lose your head. And like again, that's that's sort of spread throughout the third world. But this is something we in the West have not appreciated, I think, is that there are big cultural differences, and you need to make integration like a big focus. Like if you're going to come live here, fine. This is how we do things. And like I know that's terrible according to whatever experts of our time, like that's terribly racist and whatever other ist you can throw at it. But it's like we're at the point now where we don't care anymore. Like call me a racist, fine, but we got problems that you've caused and let's fix them.
Well, are there other examples even in today's, like you've spoken before about Muslims in Canada, right? And
Yeah.
what goes on the streets of Toronto and surrounding areas in our country as well. Is there stuff like like this is in the U.S. in Minnesota, but what's going on in Canada?
And I'll remind you that they used to have the state of regular soda. They changed that to Montana, but you still have Minnesota. There's always time for dad jokes, people. So I mean, Canada. Yeah, we talk about the West. These examples are coming out in the States, and there's lots more we don't need to get into. But yeah, we have similar. That same idea happens in Canada, right? When you have mass immigration without integration, it's just a recipe for disaster. So you've seen like the Eaton Center. Not that I go to the mall ever anymore, unless it's to work. But you see the Eaton Center was essentially taken over by pro-Palestinian protesters. And I mean, when we say pro-Palestinian, you got to remember that a lot of these people really don't care about Palestine. They care about the narrative of anti-truth, anti-West, anti-Christian, anti-white. Right? That's really what it is. And this is a convenient vehicle to express that, right? Like Greta Thunberg, I talked about her, talked about her. She's not on the climate thing anymore. She's doing all the Palestinian protests.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's like the current thing that is anti.
Yeah.
And that's cool. So anyways, yeah, they took over the Eaton Center, like just nonsense. And the Solicitor General, by the way, in Ontario, has advised Toronto Police Services that now this is nonsense and you guys should be prosecuting them or should be like arresting these people for these because it's intimidation is what it is.
They're taking advantage of kind of maybe weak law enforcement. I don't know. Or is it just
a weak society?
Yeah, weak society, like a culture of tolerating these things, like you said, in Somalia with this fly. Or
well, that's the other thing, tolerance, right? Tolerance is sort of a white Christian idea, or maybe not white, but like a European Christian idea. We developed the idea of tolerance. That doesn't exist in a lot of countries. So when you come here, you'd be like, oh, perfect.
Well,
like I can broadcast my intolerance because they're tolerant of it.
Well, again, democracy functions on that premise, right? That if you have ideas that are counter mine, well, at least we can speak about them and I have to tolerate maybe they're ideas I don't agree with or I think they're foolish or destructive, but at least, we can speak about them and come to a solution, right?
Yeah. But as we're seeing with hate speech laws, even that is like going by the wayside, right? It only goes one way. And it's so bewildering to see the way that it goes is going in the direction of intolerance, in the direction of, like it's all about Islamophobia as the current flavor, right? So if you're a Muslim, you can say whatever you want.
All right. So this is kind of like we got off the chairlift. We're coming down. We're leaning over our skis pretty heavy. And we see some moguls coming up. And it's like, all right, this is not going to go good. So is mass immigration the answer?
And when you talk about that, I mean, we're talking about it now. But generally speaking, when you talk about this with a critical lens, like that's racist, that's Islamophobic, right? You can't do that. And more and more people are now talking about it because they're not worried about the racist label.
Yeah. Well, can we look at examples where it went well? Because then he's laughing. Well, we could look at both, right? Let's look at where it went poorly and where it went bad. And is there examples where it's like, okay, immigration has its place, but is it the solution or are there other solutions?
So one thing that I was thinking about with the fraud in Minneapolis was the RICO Act in the States. And we've referenced this before on the show, right? One reason that Canada has some issues with law enforcement is because we don't have something like the RICO Act. So that's racketeering, influenced, and corrupt organizations. I love the word racketeering. I don't know. It's just a fun word to say. But basically, it's like organized crime.
Sounds like organized tennis or something.
Going to the racketeering club. Yeah. It's like orienteering and tennis, kind of.
Yeah, there you go.
Play tennis as you explore. But no, this legislation was brought in I think 1970 in the States, and specifically to
like Sam Cooper mentioned this, right?
Yeah,
we were talking to him.
Yeah, we have our silly laws that are like the antithesis of RICO, but they have RICO in the States, which pushed a lot of the mob up here. But it was aimed specifically at the Italian mafia, and there were other organizations as well, but especially the mob, because they were like New York City was kind of run by the mob and the Italian mafia. But nobody, I mean, I think.
But that's like in a sense, that's an example of a bad where immigration or mass immigration.
Yeah, 100%.
Poorly because they all kind of centralized in one area. They're not integrated into society.
The U.S. had mass immigration for quite a while, and it was a mixed bag, I would say, because you had economic success, you had all kinds of opportunities created for people, but you also had groups, right? Not ghettos. What the word is I'm trying to think of, but you had these isolated islands of people who were organized along ethnic lines, right? Yeah. Because they didn't fully integrate. So Italians was one, Irish was another. But my point was with the RICO Act is nobody cried racism, right? I'm sure some Italians were like, oh, this is anti-Italian, whatever. But, you know, by and large, society was fine with it because they saw the problem and they understood there needed to be a solution. And the whole point of the RICO Act was if you can prove that there's actually organized crime, we're going to hit you with like way stiffer penalties, financial and penal. So you're going to go to jail for a long time if you're convicted under the RICO Act, and that's what happened. Like you think of Al Capone, right? In the 30s, he got busted for tax evasion, not for all the other stuff he was doing, right? Because they really didn't have laws to, like, you know, if you...
That was before the RICO Act.
Well before. And this was part of the limitation of the system, is you had all these guys doing all this stuff, but you couldn't touch them because they weren't directly tied to it, right? Didn't actually... You could arrest somebody for murder, but the guy who ordered the murder, who's more liable because he's the boss, you couldn't really touch him because there wasn't, unless you had direct evidence. So anyways, RICO changed a lot of that. Nobody cried about that either, right? It was a great success, and they used it to prosecute other groups as well. But especially the mob, they really broke the hold of the Italian mafia in New York City and across the States. And they all moved up here to Canada. So, I mean, that's one example of bad immigration. I think the other example is here. People can disagree with us, but I think we've had it here. It's not been good.
Yeah, we were doing research, and the AI was telling us, hey, Canada's a good example of great immigration. We're looking at each other.
No, disagree.
Nope. AI is wrong.
But I mean, it just makes sense, right? When you're going from one culture to another, you need to integrate the cultures in order to.
Yeah, but would you say it is like, because Canada has had a good immigration run for a long time, but specifically the last 10, 20 years, like things have kind of changed.
It's been disastrous.
Yeah.
100%. There are some good examples, right? So Israel is one, that doesn't like come to mind. And clearly that would not be without a lot of commentary right now. But the state of Israel was created, and it was like a homogenous population with similar values. Like it was a bunch of Jews, essentially, who all moved to Israel, to the new state, and they worked hard together, and they created a very successful country, a liberal democracy in the midst of dictatorships and tyrannies in the Middle East. And they've they went too liberal, but it's one example of how mass immigration can work, right? Australia is similar to Canada, right? They had their time, we had our time, where we had a lot of immigration. But again, It was with similar to the people who founded the country. In Australia's case, it was criminals. I just had to throw that out for anybody.
To throw them under the bus.
Anybody in Australia, yeah.
They're already under the world, and you got to throw them under the bus too.
So anybody who came subsequently had to be better. No, but it was mainly Europeans, right? So you had, and I'm not saying like you can only have Europeans immigrate, but they had similar values. So there wasn't the need to like temper their viewpoints. Singapore is another example I looked up. Became, it's a very financially successful country, city-state, whatever
built
you
on
want to call
immigration.
it. Immigration was very important to them, but they were like super strict on who got to come in, only people, valuable people.
Yeah.
And then you had to integrate
It sounds
into what
like
they
similar
believed.
to Dubai. In the sense there is probably not immigration, but just contribution to the economy.
It is, but yeah, you can't, the actual citizens of Dubai, there's very few. I think it's under 1 million, right?
You can't participate
There's
in
many
that.
more people. Yeah, you can participate as long as you contribute.
Yeah.
But you're not like first class citizen, for sure, because like they understand it. Germany was another example post war, right? They became sort of the economic engine of Europe, but that was a mixed bag, right? They had a lot of immigration in the 50s to the 70s from countries that were really suffering, and they had economic success, but culturally was there was a lot of strife at that time. So mixed bag there. I mean, with mass immigration, there's a couple of preconditions, I think, right? You need to have labor demand for one. You can't just bring people in and expect them to create stuff. We tried that here, right? It didn't work, right? We brought them all into
Gotta flip those
strip
burgers,
mall
Mark.
colleges, and yeah, it didn't help.
Well, in that case, like in Canada, we have a lot of youth can't get employment, right? So we have that as a kind of a second order effect. People come here and they take all the low skilled jobs, and the youth who actually live here can't get jobs. Well, there you go. No labor demand.
Yeah, I mean, so this my mic's falling over. This really irritates me, right? When you see the headlines of these fast food companies or restaurants saying like, "Oh, we can't survive without immigration, without this source of labor." I'm like, well, then maybe you shouldn't survive, right? And I've read some arguments saying like, yeah, we can find servers, but we can't find cooks. Well, I don't know what to tell you, right? If we're in a free market, I guess you gotta pay your cooks more.
Yeah, incentivize
Right?
the cooks to work.
Yeah, like you're on one hand, they're saying like, oh, we can't survive without immigrants because there's nobody wants to work. But I don't know if people in my circles anyways, who have kids who tried to find jobs over the last few summers, and like application after application, they couldn't find the jobs where they typically used to, right? In the low skilled, like fast food and whatever.
Entry level.
Yeah. So you can't tell me if you're running an A&W that you absolutely must depend on immigration because nobody wants to be a cook. Like, get out of here. Right? Like, no, just shut your doors then, because you're contributing to the problem. And so, yeah, when you bring in, this is my point about you need to have real labor demand. There's not real like we didn't have a crisis at all the Tim Hortons across Canada where we had to bring in millions of unskilled laborers.
Yeah, well, because
to make
that
coffee.
immigration makes sense in that case when there is a labor demand, because other solution is have more kids, and that takes several years for the kids to be of
A
working
little bit of
age, right?
planning involved.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a time delay there. We're like, all right, guys, you're going to have to wait about 15, 18 years before we got some new workers coming. And that's just the first wave, I guess. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, this is a good, immigration is a good way to just turn on the switch and let's go. Okay, come in, you're qualified, get to work, start producing for the country, and you can see a benefit right away.
Yeah, but you said you're qualified,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You
So
have
that would
to,
be the, like another thing, right? Like matching the people who come in to whatever our needs are.
which Canada did for a long time, right? We
That's
had
how you got
strict...
in, right?
No. There wasn't even a government when I got here, Brent. Right? It was just like, go claim 10 acres, right? If you can chop the trees, you can have
You were
it.
a frontiersman. There we go. We'll talk about that too.
Frontiers person, Brent.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, sorry. You didn't have the beard back then? You couldn't tell?
No, it was longer.
Oh.
But men, women, we all had beards.
Yeah.
It was cold. But yeah, you're right? You select based on economic need. And Canada did that for a long time, right? You had skilled labor, and we got like the best of all over the world. And that was awesome. And that was the model to follow. But we changed that, especially 2015. And then integration. In a lot of these examples that were successful, integration was kind of enforced, right? Like you have to integrate. These are the rules of society. Some are implied and some are actually written down, but like this is what we expect of you, and we have no expectations.
How do you enforce that? And it almost like a culture in Canada. The culture is tolerant. Like, oh, you're here from another country. I'm sorry. What do you need? I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry if I offended you by.
I'm sorry.
Here.
Here's a double.
Yeah. Already. Yeah.
I think the best way of enforcing expectations is not to have government support. Right? This is like part of the. You could eliminate the issue.
So that demonstrates
in Minnesota.
Personal responsibility.
You could eliminate a lot of the issues here if you're like, fine, you can come here. But you get no government support for the first 10 years or some number, right? And that would include healthcare, that would include any kind of benefits. Because I was thinking about, our churches do support some refugees.
Yeah.
Right. And we have been involved with getting housing for some of them and stuff like that. And that's fine. But then there's also government support. So, okay, great. I was thinking about that. Like, I don't know. It's kind of nonsense. If private citizens want to bring in refugees, great. They got a guarantee to support them, I think. And like zero government support. And again, I know that's terribly intolerant of me and whatever else. But I mean, like, it's not like we're taking money out of our piggy banks, the Canadian piggy bank, to pay for these refugee claimants or asylum claimants. We're spending money. We're debasing
everyone else's.
We don't have the money.
Yeah, we're spending our kids' future money on settling people here who largely don't integrate or won't integrate the way they should. I think with integration too, like having shared values makes it a lot easier, certainly, right? Like it's understandable if you come here and you don't share the language, right? Like, for example, okay, I don't know English, I have to learn. It's going to take me a couple of years to kind of really get the hang of the culture here. But if you have completely different values and you don't have the time of day for the values of the country you're coming to, well, integration is a lot more challenging to say, right?
Well, and this is what we're seeing, especially around Muslim immigration. And that's not racist, by the way, because Muslim isn't a race. But where you have, they're becoming more vocal now as well, about how they hate the West. And I'm generalizing, right? Because we did have Muslim immigration prior to 2015, which wasn't as problematic. But now you have people out and out saying we hate the West, we hate your values, and we want to implement Sharia law. And once we do that, too bad for you and for your Western ideals, right? This is what we're going to do. And this is, part of the issue with the pro-Palestinian protest is this is part of what they're saying, right? How many times do you have to chant death to Israel, death to Canada to not qualify to be here? Get the heck out of this country.
Yeah, what?
Anyway, so you're gonna get my blood pressure all up, Brent. But this is part of the integration when you bring people like that here, and then you say, "Here's a nice monthly government stipend for you to be able to go and do what, go and instigate violence and have another Kristallnacht and smash Jewish shops and stuff and protest at Indigo." Like, just you are useless. Like, we don't need you here. We don't want you here. But not having government support, like that's the key in a lot of this stuff, is actual government support for these destabilizing forces in our countries. If you didn't have that support, well, guess what? You better go get a job, and maybe you'll have a little bit less time to be protesting, right? Because this is why you don't see the productive class out there. Because people say like, "Oh, we got to organize and counter protest," and it's like, okay, but I got to work, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
well,
sorry, it's a lot easier if you're a gender studies Muslim disabled lesbian to go protest or pray in the street in Toronto when the government's supporting you, as opposed to like, no, I got to support my family. So that would be nice, but like my kids got to eat.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, even just like helping the poor and even raising kids, the tendency to want to just give them things to fix the problem, right? I'm gonna improve your situation by giving you money.
Yeah.
And we're talking about this Good Stewards too, in terms of helping parents get their kids to buy a house.
Yeah.
That's a big concern these days.
These
right?
lousy kids.
Yeah. Well,
Don't start me.
but the reality is, like, many parents are thinking, I want to help my kid get into the market. So what does that look like? And one of the big things is, okay, it's not just literally buying your kids a house. It's how do you structure this so that they understand that it's, them growing in responsibility. You're teaching, it's an opportunity to teach them responsibility, teach them proper stewardship, and to guide them along the way. And so like helping people who are poor, helping refugees, helping your kids or whatever, somebody who needs the assistance. Yeah, there are people who need the assistance, and there are people that God placed in your life who have resources to help.
Yeah.
Right. And there's always that imbalance, right? We've said too, like the poor you will always have with you. Well, giving them free things, is that the solution? No, it generally puts the responsibility back on the giver to continue to give, right? Rather than teaching them the valuable lesson and building responsibility over time. And not to mention that the money is made up out of thin air.
Well, and this is the difference when you have government support, right? So I look at these people who are very virtuous because they're poverty activists and whatever activists and any kind of activist, right? They're not actually going out there giving of their own money, because people, and I mean, I've seen this with churches too, right? You do an initiative for whatever it is to help the poor in the city, and reality hits you really quick when you're like, oh, actually we're not helping, we're hurting. And because I'm giving out of my own pocket, I'm going to stop because this is producing a negative result. Or we're going to continue to do this because it's been blessed, right? We're having positive results. But these activists, they're not actually net contributors, because what are they doing? They're lobbyists. They're saying, this is my pet project, and we have to support whatever population with government funds, not with my own funds, with government funds.
Yeah.
And
there's a degree of separation there, right?
Yeah.
But it can only perpetuate because of that degree of separation. They don't see the truth. They don't see the results. They don't see the negative impacts.
But that drives me nuts just about this. Sorry, it's a pet peeve of mine. There's a lot
you're
of pet
driving me
peeves.
nuts. Shoot, it's
No,
the
but
first
with
episode of the new year.
Community activists, right, and how virtuous they are, is like, it's nonsense, because no, they're just lobbyists getting government money, and
How can that?
it's Anyways, that's a bit of a sidebar.
And when you say government money,
I mean, it's our
you
money.
mean our money.
But our money that's been like run through the ringer. Anyways, Brent.
So it does work. Okay, so where mass immigration was beneficial was when institutions were strong in the country you're coming into.
Yeah, I mean,
do we have that? Like we talked about being over our skis.
Yeah, we got
our
a double whammy,
institutions
right?
are over their skis,
where our institutions are just failing, and they're morally bankrupt, and they have no guidepost, guiding star. Because we don't believe in anything anymore, right? And that's official government policy.
Yeah.
What was it that Trudeau said? Not diversity is our strength, but we're the first post national state, or something like that. which is right, which means like essentially we have no national identity,
Yeah.
and we're the first state to sort of embrace that. Right, that was his official position, and yeah, we're the first state to believe in nothing and to stand for nothing.
Woohoo!
And then we're surprised when there's strife, right? Anyways, that's
I think that's in just a side note. I think that's in an official capacity. Like there are Canadians still who do stand for things and who,
absolutely
right. So it's the institutions that are crumbling, and it's the people. It's not necessarily the people behind them all.
No, but I mean, this is my problem with democracy, right? It's a large majority of the people.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of other people, like I said, they're busy.
I just don't want to
surviving.
brush everybody and say like, okay, Canada's failing. Like nobody believes it cares. Like, there are people who believe this is a great country and believe values,
Yeah, and they're being forced to become more and more active. We're seeing more grassroots organizations for various things as a reaction to what's going on. I mean, the government worries about radicalization of the population, and like they are responsible for the radicalization of people, right? Young people now are more and more not anti-immigrant, but anti-immigration policies and third world values, all this stuff. They're like, no. And this is young people, 25 and under, have been radicalized not by some ulterior white nationalist forces in Canada, but by the government of Canada, just by seeing the effects in reality. And you're looking for the sources of radicalization.
Those impacts,
it's the government.
Yeah, those impacts the young people in a big way too, right? When you talk about real estate and, for example, rental demand, try to get a house, try to get a spot to rent.
Even just try to find a cheap place to rent.
Yeah.
Or a reasonable.
Yeah. And over the last 2 years, like when immigration spiked, right, to its height, what was it, 1.4 million in a year? It's just ridiculous. But so at that time, you could really feel the crunch, right? And if you're a young person, try and put yourself in those shoes, like that was felt. And now as it's shut off, like, okay, well, if immigration was crazy and I couldn't afford to live, I didn't have a job, like, things were not great. And now, okay, they've slowed it down. Housing affordability has kind of come back in a little bit. Maybe they're drawing conclusions there too, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
like it's
they're
felt,
not dumb.
Experience,
you can figure that out for sure. And I mean, what did Carney say? Judge me on food prices. That was one of the things he said when he came in.
Not on real estate prices?
No, he knew that was not going to be a good one. But food prices have only gone up. Just to stick it to young people. I mean, not just young people, but to everybody, right?
Everybody needs to eat, I think.
Yeah. So you can say, oh, rental rates are falling. We're doing a good thing, right? This is the government, right? They talk out of both sides of their mouth, right? Like, oh, immigration is beneficial. You just see some of the tweets side by side. And then, a year later, they'll say like immigration is not contributing to high rental prices. And then a year later, like we've reduced high rental prices by reducing immigration. Come on, guys. Oh, but that's where young people especially, like they can read, they can think, as much as I mock them. Mock them their avocado toast.
Yeah, while they're eating their avocado toast.
Exactly. In between bites, they can read and they can figure stuff out. So yeah, it's and we've always had, I think this has been one of the value propositions for real estate in the GTA anyways. Notably by the Karadza brothers, they've been pointing this out for a long time before the current immigration craziness, is that we have a structural imbalance of homes being built in the GTA, like in Ontario, Canada in general, but specifically here. So there's a good opportunity because there's also a lot of immigration.
Yeah. Why do people come to the GTA? Well, because there's jobs. There's a lot of diversity in jobs. There's already people here who, might be of the same nationality or whatever. You can kind of find your spot.
Yeah. And we've always had between like 250, 300,000 people moving like
What
immigrating
would you
to
say?
Canada.
A manageable amount? Mark? Would that be manageable?
A manageable amount of high skilled, high quality,
Yeah.
for the most part, individuals, right? And some refugee claimants and stuff, but it wasn't enough to clog the system. But, that combined with the amount of houses being built created an imbalance. So that meant, okay, real estate's a good investment.
Yeah, and in this area, like the green belt also forms another barrier to development, to expanding the supply, right?
Yeah,
If you can't
artificial
build houses.
constraint.
Yeah, it's just, well, hey, this thing called the green belt, where all of a sudden you can't build houses here. Oh, okay, that means the development lands are constrained even further.
Yeah.
Towards where they already are developed. So we're running out of development land. We're already short on houses, and this is where all the immigrants want to come, and we're juicing it. So,
Oh man, so what do we do about it, Brent?
what fixes this? We've already talked about the Racketeering Act, and that's an interesting thing that happened in the U.S. where it directly, it had a big impact on the Italian mob and criminal organizations.
Well, even FIFA. I don't know if you saw that, right? Like 2015, I think they arrested a bunch of the directors of FIFA, like this World Soccer organization, because it was just an endlessly corrupt organization. I don't know how they applied U.S. law internationally, but they did. They just went and arrested a whole bunch of people and
just popped all the soccer balls.
Anyways, just another example of RICO. But yeah, I mean, I think having something like that would be a great boost to just the Western values in Canada, to the rule of law, right? Like I keep hammering on this. Why does the government exist? To enforce security and private property rights.
Yeah.
And like they're not doing that. So get back in the business of enforcing the law, of bringing security to people so that they know that these big organizations can't, because that's what happened in New York, right? People gained confidence in New York again after this happened. Like it took some time.
It sounds like this RICO Act gives law enforcement people like the teeth to actually go and handle this. Whereas when we're talking to Sam Cooper about organized crime in Canada, and he's saying, well, right now Canada's landscape when it comes to enforcing these things, like we just don't have, like we can't pin people down.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way, right?
We have precedents that actually go the opposite way.
Yeah. You have to prove, okay, you have to prove whatever. I really don't understand all that stuff. I'm not a lawyer, but
yeah, I mean, but you don't need to know all the ins and outs to know that something is stupid. Like when it comes down to it, you could put
that's how we're going to start this show.
Put it in highfalutin language, or you can just say it simply. Anyways, better law enforcement would be good. But I mean,
well, the mass immigration is kind of a temporary Band-Aid fix. Like it is something that you can do quickly to assuage like a crisis. Okay, well, we need this labor, so let's bring in these skilled people quickly. But over time, it still doesn't fix the underlying issue, which is the population decline, people not having kids. So do we want to just go out and say it and like just have kids?
Yeah, I mean, we've said it a lot, and I think we need to say it more, right? Yeah. If you are a productive member of society,
the year of stewardship. Go have
babies. I don't know. It's again something
and train them in the Christian walk of life. That goes hand in hand with having babies.
Yeah, 100%. And that's if you want takeaways, right? Like, what can you do? I don't know. Do you be more politically involved? Yes, you can do that, right? You have sort of the Amish model where you can totally separate yourself from society, or do you go fully the other way and like, let's take it over, right? I don't think that's the way to go either, because, I would love to have a nation that was sort of based on biblical Christianity and God's laws. But you will never get that unless the majority of people actually want that, right? I don't think you can, because there's a lot of talk about Christian nationalism, especially in the States. They're like, we're going to impose these laws top down. Like it's not going to work.
Or at least
unless the people actually welcome that.
They could create enclaves or smaller communities where that is enforced.
Yeah, and I mean, you can do that to a certain extent. But I mean, you talk about for nation building or doing your whole nation, right? Like, the majority of people have to want that. You can't impose that top down. I don't think that is the solution, but then do your part, right? Like the Muslims understand this,
Yeah.
right? Because I've seen many interviews where they're like, we're having more babies than you. And in 10, 20 years, when I say you, I mean like white European folks, in 10, 20 years, we're going to outnumber you. And like, that's part of the strategy, right? So like, right back at you. Let's get at it, people. And,
Well, okay. Are we leaning on the crutch of technology a little bit here too, where we think, because one of the problems, at least economically speaking, is just a lack of productivity. Like we can't keep up with our debt. We can't produce enough value. So I guess, if you listen to people who talk about the tech trends, like, oh, if AI could solve that productivity and really boost productivity, we wouldn't need to have it wouldn't be such an issue if our population was on the decline.
Yeah.
Because we could handle all the problems just with the boosted productivity from technology being so advanced. Don't need to have kids, don't even have immigrants. I don't know if that's a reality, but like that, you hear that argument made as well.
So what's your solution?
I don't think so.
No, interesting. I read an article the other day about, because we've been talking about AI and how, programmers are going to get hit real hard and they're all going to lose their jobs and stuff. But there were some examples provided of, software improvements or whatever, where it only increased productivity. It didn't actually put programmers out of work. Programmers were able to do a lot more with the tools they had, and that created other opportunities. So actually nobody lost jobs, and like maybe AI is going to be the same thing. We got to get we're going to get somebody on in the new year. I'm a little behind in my replies, but who is a little more connected into the tech world. But yeah, it's interesting. What's AI going to do? I mean, I think one of the things we need is, because we're talking about, I don't know, some of the ideological slants of Chat GPT and whatever else, right? So I think we need more Christian AI prompt writers.
Yeah, there we go.
That is a very concrete example of how you can contribute if you're in that space.
And not the prompt writers who first ask ChatGPT, explain to me the Bible. Oh, okay. Now filter everything through that lens. Yeah, you need to explain, or you need to understand it yourself first.
Yeah, and you got to have that like a strong anchor, right?
Yeah.
A strong foundation. So, I mean, it all goes back to family and the importance of family. Right? If you can have kids, raise them in the truth, and then teach them how to function, how to live, but also with that strong biblical foundation, right?
Yeah, and I don't think we can expect utopia, right? Well, we shouldn't.
No.
So we can't be going around thinking like, okay, if we just do this and this and this, like the world will be perfect. And we can make improvements, certainly, and we should work towards things and steward well. But don't have this expectation that we're going to somehow, create heaven on earth here, right?
No.
Because that can be a temptation to think like, well, if it would just had it my way, this would all be fixed and we wouldn't have crime. We wouldn't have abuse of daycare funds coming from whatever, right? And things would be perfect. And it's like, no, that's not the case at all.
It isn't, but I think you have to strive towards that, right? You need an ideal to strive towards, knowing that you'll never hit it. But like, what else are you going to aim for? Right. The other things that we've aimed for, post-national states and whatever else, like, I don't think that's the answer. Unfettered third world immigration. I don't think that's the answer.
To guide that striving, we need to have conviction in the truth. Like, what do we actually believe? Do you believe it? How do you know? Like, did you do your reading? What do you stand for? Yeah. And if you stand for it, well, stand for it. Like, go talk about it and tell people. Like, I think it's so tempting to just be one of the people in society who's tolerant and who doesn't speak their mind. And, you don't want to risk offending anybody. You don't want to, stick your neck out and have your life potentially ruined, or some aspect, like maybe your employment, lose your job or whatever, right? Put your family at risk. Like, you don't want to do that for the sake of what you believe in. Well, do you really believe in it? and that's hard, man. Like that, some cultures maybe have that, they wear their faith on their sleeve more than others. And, maybe they have firmer conviction in their faith. I don't know. But I think that is a very important thing to guide us, right? Is know what you believe and be convicted of it. Speak it openly.
Well, yeah, I think you take a page. So if we're, I specifically am concerned about the threat of Islam to Canadian society. So let's take a page out of their books and let's be very openly Christian.
Yeah.
If you are a Christian, like I said, wear it on your, they're not afraid to say who they are or what they believe or to shut down streets for prayers. I'm not saying we shut down streets for prayers, but just be open and vocal about it and not apologize. Because I've been the same way, right? Just almost apologetic about my faith, or you just try to hide it when the conversation comes up, like no more. And I think this is what I've talked about, sort of the radicalization of people, where people are like, no, I'm not going to hide this anymore. Cause
does that play into like relying on grassroots, like local movements versus relying on government programs and institutions, which we've already said are failing?
Yeah.
Right? They're crumbling. They're morally bankrupt. So is the solution here to rely on more grassroots things with your church, with your community, and touching people? Not touching.
Yeah. I mean, even for, people who aren't Christian who are listening, if they're still listening, no, but because there's a lot of people who understand the value of Christianity to our society, how it's built it, how it's formed it, and even maintaining it, but like don't want to accept the core beliefs. Like I need to profess faith in Jesus Christ, right? They're like, well, yeah, like I like all the benefits, but I don't want to I don't want to be a full member of the club, right? But they sort of understand that as well. Like we need to re-embrace these values, because that it's about truth, and that truth that has shaped our society that we've gone away from. So, a lot of people also have ideas like, well, the government needs to do this or that. And like, that's the wrong approach. As you've alluded to, it needs to be grassroots. It can't be like the government has to do some things. Like if they have failed policies, like fix those policies, like immigration, right? We can't affect immigration. So there's certain things that are the purview of the government, but the rest of it, they need to get out of.
Yeah.
And
but if they hear our will over and over again, right, then they will change.
Eventually, maybe, right? Because they have heard
people,
it. Yeah. It has to be a majority, I think, because they've just spat in our face for how long?
Yeah.
Right, saying like, oh, you're racist and you're this and you're that.
I'm also curious if we can tighten the reins on governments by taking away their ability to finance whatever they want through printing money.
That's
another one. We'll talk about that in 2026 too.
Well, I think just part of it, getting back to the grassroots thing, is I think we need to be prepared as well for some kind of either collapse or decline in government in different ways.
Okay.
Well, because if we rely on the government to fix everything, what happens when the government fails?
Yeah.
What's your plan B? Are you strong enough and resilient enough to be able to elucidate your values and what you believe, but then also be able to exert influence over society when government has much less influence, when government can't do it, and maybe government only exists, in the form of like military and police or something. What are you like? How are you preparing to be able to be that person or part of a community that the country can rely on?
Yeah.
Right. If we go like, I don't know, are we going to go that route? I don't know. But like, well, when you look at
you got the camo shirt on, and you're like hiding in the bushes with your beard poking out. I can see it. I can see it.
Camouflage beard. Yeah. No, but I mean, if we have the chance to reshape society, are we going to be prepared to do that? And how do we do that? So I think that's something we want to explore more in 2026. But I mean, there's a few, first of all, have some babies.
Yeah. And, and just, we do have to wrap up. I think, like governments can't necessarily do it, right? Our institutions have this 4-year cycle, we get elected, we go through so we have short-term thinking. And I think at least as individuals, we can start thinking long-term. And I think Christians are good at this, right? Because we have this eternal perspective. We think not in terms of this life. We're exiles here, right? We're only here for a short time. And I was actually listening to a business podcast the other day, and some totally secular podcast host was talking about kind of the same thing. Like he realized, hey, like this is all borrowed time, is all not my own. Like I use it. It's like, well, that's stewardship. You don't know where that came from. That came from the Bible. Like that is the reality we live in, right? God created this world. He gave us all this stuff. And that's where stewardship hits home is we are here for a short time. You believe like we're here for a purpose and you're here to glorify God. Well, live that way, right? And think long term. Don't think about yourself tomorrow, and don't get caught in these same kind of 4-year cycle waves that our institutions are caught in, and our financial business cycles and all this. Like break out of that and think about, okay, what can I do for the next generation? What can I do to solve this problem? Problem solving takes a long time, right? Like immigration is kind of a band-aid solution to, but even fixing the immigration problem is going to take years. It could take a generation for the generation that's been hurt by immigration to say, okay, I'm going to change my mind on this, or like next generation comes in and we have a different perspective because it's done properly, right? And over time, I think when you have a long-term mindset, like the truth becomes so much more important, right? Because you can't mask over the truth on a long enough, like in a short period of time, like you said with these Somalian things, going back to the beginning, like they could hide it because, hey, for a few months, for a few years, whatever, but like this comes out, right? It doesn't happen forever. A new government comes in, like the truth will come out, and having a long-term mindset will help you, guide, be a better steward in 2026.
Yeah. And I think, understand what you believe and then be prepared to defend that and explain it to people so that when they lose faith in the institutions that they trusted in, like the government, like whatever, right? Most of it's government that people trust in. When all of a sudden their faith in those things is shaken because they've failed in one way, form, or shape, be prepared to give them an alternative and be like, here is the, for Christians, that would be like, here is the gospel.
In God we trust. I was going to get a sign and put it on my house, in God we trust. And see what happens. Maybe all of our listeners can go to 2026 goal. Put up a sign, in God we trust.
Can we do that? Can we make that part of the merch store? Can we somehow profit from from this?
No.
I think that's part of the plan, right? Is make lots of money so that you can support yourself.
Yeah, money is not necessarily a bad thing, but loving it, and that can lead to other things.
All right. Hey, so, okay, I think we'll wrap up this episode there, but
just like the
for
Europeans,
2026, what?
Who came here for the meat, or they came for the freedom, they stayed for the meat.
Did we talk about that?
I don't even remember.
I don't think so.
I don't great quote.
Oh, man. So, yeah, just quickly, folks. I was reading about, I don't know, protein freedom or something. In one of the big draws for people to come to America, as it was known then, from Europe, is that in Europe, like, we're talking 1800s, if you were a regular person, you didn't get a lot of meat, right? Because meat was scarce, meat was expensive, and it was just not a big part of your diet, right? So some of the ads for coming to the New World, whatever you want to call it, was that there was plenty of meat available, all the meat you can eat, right? You can just go hunt your deer, your whatever, right? You think of in the UK,
that's why
you
we're
couldn't
all a
go
bunch
hunting.
of savages here, Mark.
No, but you couldn't, like, there were deer in the
we're
UK.
a whole continent of carnivores.
Carnivores. Anyways, you couldn't just go hunting because somebody owned that estate, and it was either the king or the local gentry. But point is, you'd come here and do that, whether it's Canada, the U.S., and how within a few generations, the colonials, as they were known, were 2 to 3 inches taller than their European counterparts.
That's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, there's
whether or not that was just the meat, but
I think mainly because of the meat.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was an ad from, what was it, Dominion or something back in the 80s?
Okay.
You wouldn't know that one.
I wouldn't know.
Anyways,
great
eat some
quote.
meat, folks.
Yeah.
Kate, for the New Year, Brent podcast, we got a little bit of, not a change in direction, but I mean, we have noted, and you have noted that we've been sort of moving away a little bit from our roots, I guess, in sort of financial stewardship with a big focus on real estate. And that's
Yeah.
something you want to sort of move back towards a bit without abandoning some of the...
I don't want to make any claims because when I do that live on the podcast, like the merch store and all that stuff, it never pans out. But we
It's good to have
we
something to
want to
aim
hear
for.
hear feedback from listeners to just how you think about the show and what direction we want to take it back, kind of towards talking about economics and money again as well, and give some practical advice, because we think that there is a huge place for that in our culture today. Like, saving doesn't work, saving is broken. What can we do? What are our options, practically speaking? And of course, cultural events and speaking about society and ways we can steward in that context is important, so we'll continue to do that. But we want to have some practical takeaways for people, so we'll do our best to provide that. And of course, we want to have guests too, so we'll do our best to find some great ones. But we're really appreciative for all the guys who have come on in the past.
100%.
We'll see if we can get some more of them on. But Mark, 2026, let's go.
Here we go. I don't have a good rallying cry for 2026, but I don't know. I guess, come for the freedom, stay for the meat.
There we go.
Until next time.
Steward your wealth wisely. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Two Stewards Show. If you like my voice better, click subscribe.
If you like my voice better, click share.
If you like both, give us a 5-star rating.
To learn more about the show, head on over to twostewards.ca and explore our free resources. To interact with the show, feel free to reach out at hello@twostewards.ca.
We will see you in the next episode. In the meantime, steward your wealth wisely.
Nailed it.